Hey guys, hopefully you came in and got started right away on your warm-up, and you should have already submitted it. So it was 4 problems today because I broke up number 2. So that should be done and finished on your checklist, and we're going to go ahead and move on to notes for today. So one thing to notice though, problem number 3, when we are solving problems with negative numbers, guys, these are actually integers, and that is what we're working on today. So we're going to go over those rules in case you missed it. So today's adding integers, and these are actually problems that you should have already learned, and we're just going to kind of refresh your memory. So yesterday we reviewed that integers are positive and negative whole numbers, and I talked to you about them being numbers on a number line, right? So on a number line, we have 0 here in the middle. Oops. Let's try again. So we have 0 here in the middle. And then anything to the right of 0 is our positive numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then anything to the left is negative. So -1, -2, -3, -4. And no, this is not on your notes. You don't need to add it. Just listen for now. Okay, so as we go to the left down the number line, our numbers are getting smaller, correct? So -1 is a much smaller number than 4, right? And -4 is smaller than -1, okay? So as we go to the left, down your number line, your numbers are getting smaller. Now, something we will talk about today is absolute value. And so what absolute value is it's basically the distance from 0, okay? So if I go from -4 to 0, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4 hops, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So my distance from 0 is 4. All right, so we're basically, when we talk about the absolute value, we're just looking at the number. We're not looking at whether it's positive or negative. We're just looking at the number, okay? So that's what we mean by absolute value. So there's some cool ways to remember your rules for adding and subtracting integers. So my favorite way is this song that it goes to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Okay, and let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see me. Maybe it'll work. Okay, there you go. So the song goes, same sign add and keep, different sign subtract. Keep the sign of the biggest one, then you'll be exact. So that is the song that I sing and I remember when I am doing these types of problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in our blanks. So same sign add. Oops. Okay, so same sign add. Okay, so if they're both positive or they're both negative, we're going to add them. Different sign, we're going to subtract. Okay, and then we're going to keep the sign of the biggest one. Okay, and when I say biggest one, I mean the greatest absolute value, the biggest different distance from 0. Okay, so if I'm talking about 1 versus -9, well, 9 is larger than 1. I'm not paying attention to if it's positive or negative. I'm just looking at the number by itself without the sign and saying which one's the biggest one, okay? And then if we're going to subtract, we're always going to add the opposite. So instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite, and then we follow the same rules, okay? So again, the song goes, same sign add and keep, different sign subtract. Keep the sign of the biggest one, then you'll be exact. Okay? So there's another way to remember it, and you guys get to choose your favorite. There's a wrap. So we're going to go ahead and listen to the wrap.
Same signs add, different signs subtract. Same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger. Same signs add, different signs subtract. Same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger. Check it. I got a problem, I gotta solve it. Add integers with negative. Take the absolutes, take the absolutes. Same sign add, different subtract. Well, is that all? No, the sign. If they were the same, keep it the same. But if they were different sign of the lawyer, y'all. If you got to sing the chorus, y'all. Same signs add, different signs subtract. Same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger. Same signs add, different signs subtract. Same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger. Now there's a change, subtraction. You tried to trick me, but this is easy. Keep the first number, then change that minus sign to a plus, it's a game. Second number, change it to its opposite. That's what we do. What do you know? We're back to the start. It's now addition, and you know this part. Same signs add, different signs subtract. Same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger. Same signs add, different signs subtract. Same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger.
All right. So there is the wrap. And you guys get to choose which one you prefer. Okay, if you're super cool and you want to do the wrap, that's fine. So same sign add, different sign subtract, same sign, keep the sign, different, keep the larger. Okay, either one, your choice. You choose what works for you, but just make sure that you have the one you want on your notes. Okay, and singing them, rapping it, whatever it may be, definitely makes our students more successful, okay? All right, so we're going to keep going, but I do want you to know that I am going to give you guys a code word a little bit later in the video, so make sure you're listening, and you're going to have to draw a picture, and you can get some extra credit points just for watching the video and listening and paying attention, okay? All right, so now we're going to just do a couple of vocabulary words, all right? So they aren't necessarily on your paper, but just go ahead and listen. So the first is zero pair. So a zero pair is formed when you add a positive and a negative. And so basically what those two things do is the positive and the negative cancel each other out to make 0. Okay, so it's basically the idea of if I step to the right one step and then I go, so if I go the right one step and then I go to the left one step, it's where I started out, right? It's like I didn't even move. So that's kind of what a zero pair is. So a positive, and a negative, they cancel each other out, okay? And then the additive inverse is the opposite of a number, okay? So the additive inverse of 5 is -5, okay? All All right, so let's go ahead and move on our notes and to do our example problems, okay? So the first example we have is negative 14 plus negative 22, okay? So on a problem like this, they're both negative numbers, right? So we're going to ask ourselves the first question, same sign or different sign? So same sign, which means we're going to add them and we're going to keep the sign, okay? So I have 14 and 22. So I'm going to go ahead and add them. 4 plus 2 is 6. 2 plus 1 is 3. So I have 36. And then I'm going to keep my sign. All right? So I have negative 36. Okay? Let's take a look at the second problem. So problem number 2 says 19 plus negative 12, okay? Again, first question I'm going to ask myself, same sign or different sign, okay? So this one here is a positive, this one here is a negative. So that means I have a different sign. Sorry, I'm trying to write and do all this fancy stuff at the same time, and it's making it more difficult. So now you can look at my ceiling. So I'm not quite sure how to turn that piece off of it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go to this. We're going to go back, and so we have a different sign. Which means we're going to subtract. So now we're going to take 19 minus 12. So 9 minus 2 is 7. 1 minus 1 is 0. So we have 7. And we're going to keep the sign of the biggest number. Okay? So I am looking at 19 or I'm looking at 12. So which is bigger? 19 or is 12 bigger? Well, 19 is a larger number, so that means there's more positives, so my answer is going to be positive. Let's take another look at the next one. All right, so now for number 3, what we're going to do is it's a little bit different. So like he said in the wrap and like we put on our notes at the beginning, is we cannot subtract with negative numbers, okay? So like we said before, so to subtract, you add the opposite. And go ahead and write it again because this is super important. So to subtract, you add the opposite. So there's lots of different tricks. Like one way you can say is boom, boom. Another way I think of it is to draw 2 lines. So either way you want to remember it. So we can never touch this first number, okay? So this first number, that negative stays with it, we can't touch it. But what we're going to do is we're going to change our subtraction sign to addition. So that's adding, that's 1 line. And then we change this number to its opposite. So right now it's a positive 4, so its opposite is negative. Okay, so that's the 2 lines that I had to draw. Or another teacher before was saying boom, boom. Either way, however you remember is fine, okay? So now my problem is negative 5 plus negative 4. Now I go back to my addition pieces and I say, all right, it's a negative and a negative. Is it a same sign or different sign? So now it's the same sign. So a negative and a negative. So I'm going to add them. 5 plus 4 is 9. And I'm going to keep my sign. So my answer here is negative 9. Okay? All right. So you guys are going to go ahead and move on to the second video. And I will help you finish your notes and get started on your practice problems.